After watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
Oh, that's a baseball!
Fist of the North Star,
お前はもう死んでいる。何？
and Battle Angel Alita, you may deceive yourself into thinking that you've seen all the weirdness that the anime medium has to offer. But then you watch a lizard dude named Kaiman, with a fully grown person living inside of him, eat sorcerers whole as he gets chased by a red-headed sorcerer, N, who turns people into mushrooms and proceeds to chow down on them. But before you have a chance to question the moral implications of this subtle portrayal of cannibalism, you become mesmerized by the absurdity that is Q Hayashida's Dorohedoro. Set in a cryptic, post-apocalyptic world where sorcerers practice their magic on humans who live in a place called a SHIT hole, Kaiman and Nikaido earnestly search for the sorcerer who turned Kaiman into a lizard dude who is immune to magic. Admittingly, the characters adhere to conventional archetypes that one can see in a myriad of other anime and Western cartoons. For example, Kaiman's oafish demeanor and unremitting hunger is reminiscent of Homer from The Simpsons. Nikaido, on the other hand, follows the provocative action girl archetype in which she kicks ass and conveniently keeps her jacket unzipped so we can stare at those Humpty Dumplings. What are we gonna call those? E-cup? F-cup? I mean, bazinga! Seriously though, the back pain. And the N family, N, Shin, Noi, Fujita, and Abisu serve as a foil to inhibit and circumvent Kaiman and Nikaido's plans. In essence, do not expect a level of character depth or exploration as the recently finished first season of Beastars. Simply put, the characters are a bit superficial and there's not much exploration into their emotional and psychological feelings. But what's the appeal then? After all, Dorohedoro is not the type of anime that will pull any punches, or kicks, or bites to the face. It is a grotesque anime that will show you a world that you have never dared to imagine. And through this exploration of objectionable horror, something shocking will happen. Uncomfortable and uncontrolled laughter. In a way, it's like an extreme version of The Simpsons' Treehouse of Horror, with Kaiman starring as Homer and as Mr. Burns, and Abisu as Ralph Wiggum. In all seriousness, Dorohedoro's comedy is top-notch, with its use of dark comedy, slapstick, shock humor, situational, and anime-esque comedy. The latter one, however, can sometimes be a detriment when used too liberally. Notwithstanding, Dorohedoro wisely chooses to use restraint when it comes to this modern-day trapping. Speaking of dark comedy, my favorite moment up until this point was when Kaiman was carrying his own head in a jar while walking down a dark alley in the midst of the night. You really have to appreciate the irony and the level of comedy that Q Hayashida is displaying in this one scene. I mean, what kind of mushrooms were going to Q Hayashida's head when she wrote this hallucinogenic laugh riot? Modern-day animation is in the midst of a transition period. While in the 90s and early 2000s, studios predominantly used 2D animation and aesthetics, recent years have seen a shift to 3D CGI. It is not that one style is superior to another, yet one can't turn a blind eye to the atrocities of Berserk 2016, Ajin, or Knights of Sidonia. On the flip side, one shouldn't ignore the successes of Beastars, Fate Zero, or the action sequences involving the gear equipment in Attack on Titan. Despite some intermittent moments of wonky aesthetics and overly vibrant color choices, Dorohedoro's animation has been quite good. In particular, the background aesthetics have been superb with its portrayal of grays, blacks, yellows, and browns. In addition, the animation has been relatively smooth in the action sequences, and the use of blood provides a nice contrasting effect to all the sepia tones. As for the character designs, I'm a bit ambivalent. They're not awful by any stretch of the imagination, but the character faces, in particular, leave much to be desired. I have mentioned this more than once in my Dorohedoro episode reviews, that the blocky/pudgy faces are absent of detail. As a measuring stick, check out Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust 2D character aesthetics from the year 2000, mind you, which was over 20 years ago, and compare the differences in their respective facial aesthetics. In particular, the detail in Vampire Hunter D and the lack thereof in Dorohedoro. Granted, the budget for a feature-length film is different than a 12-episode series. That being said, one cannot help but wonder how good the animation could have been if they elected to use a 2D aesthetic. With all that in mind, however, Dorohedoro's animation and art style are pleasing to the eye. Dorohedoro's OP, Welcome to Chaos, is somewhat disappointing given its repetitive nature and lack of inclusion of the N family. By no means is it bad. However, similar to the animation, it feels like there was unrealized potential that could have made it extraordinary, which is a good segue to the overall tone of the series. That being, great concepts/ideas, average execution. All in all, Dorohedoro is still an exhilarating series that warrants your time and is one of the better anime of the 2020 winter season. Just make sure you come into this one with an empty stomach, because in one scene you'll be starving and in the next you'll be queasy beyond all hell. Bon appetit!